to the Dad Hammer Podcast, a casual Warhammer show where we discuss all things 40k, Age of Sigmar, and literally everything else Warhammer related. So whether you are a beginner or a seasoned veteran, we are so glad that you joined us on your Warhammer journey. I am your host, David the Warboss, and I am joined by my buddy, my pal, my friend, the Chaplain. There's your intro. What do you think of that? Is that good?
That's great. I just need a bit more hype music to it, and it would have been perfect.
If I'd have had actual music in the background saying that, it might have been a little more epic, maybe.
Yeah.
Or some 40k gunfire and explosions.
Something like that.
On.
I mean, we've got it on the YouTube site, so we could have just bring that in.
Do.
You know, bit of a
I'll just start doing
plug.
that. Yeah, exactly.
If you had a microphone drop down like that, and you did it like an announcement, for a
Put
boxing
a bunch of echo in it. Yeah.
Perfect. But that was
okay.
That's a good start. A solid, solid start.
Yeah. Well, glad to have you on the show. How are things? Back. How are things for you in the Warhammer realm? How have you gotten any games in? Are you just dreaming about Warhammer and that's about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've had 0 games in, but obviously painting, still finding time to do that. But I'm just waiting for a Spearhead game. That's where I'm at. So, but obviously, hopefully that'll be remedied next week. We've got a get together, so looking forward to playing a few games of Spearhead, and then we'll see. It might be a disaster or it might be really good. I don't know.
No, it's going to be great.
Sigmar, so
it's going to be great. And you mentioned not being able to play very often. And I was talking with Steve, and he was in the local store, Mechanical Keyboards, the other day, and they're just talking about getting games together. And he said that I think people assume that we just play all the time, and in reality, I might get about 10, 12 games in a year. Like that's about my target. Is once a month would just be great. But it's life and work and family. And so if you are especially if you're a parent and you're listening to this show, just don't feel too bad. Just get the game in when you can, whatever you can do. I think it's important just to get together, and it doesn't matter what game it is or how long it takes, or if you could only play for an hour. Sometimes it's good just to get together. So we're trying to go do that this coming week. So yeah. Well, we've got a really jam-packed news show, which is awesome. I always like when there's a lot of news. We have lots to discuss, and they are hot on the heels of the latest Warhammer Preview. So if you are not aware, the Warhammer Preview shows are when they have a Twitch stream on a weekend at some strange time. It really depends on if they're having an event like the Las Vegas Open, or if they're having an event somewhere else in the world, and the time zone's all weird. But they have a preview show where they show off all new models typically, or new games or something. And this one was all about Age of Sigmar. So really exciting times, at least for me. I was looking forward to it. It was the new edition of Age of Sigmar has been released. And so they've done a preview, and they announced who won the battle. They had the battle between Stormcast and Skaven, and whomever got the most, I guess, submissions got to have their models revealed first. So that's what they showed off this past weekend. So we're going to talk about that. And next, was a recent announcement, and man, I'm excited. It is all about terrain. There is some new old world terrain. I don't play old world. I don't think anybody that I know plays old world, but some new terrains coming out. It looks very impressive. We're going to talk about that. And then finally, there was a teaser, very short teaser released for the upcoming, I would assume, 40K announcement. So we've got some speculations, some guesses as to what that could be. So lots of cool news, very exciting stuff. But first, before we get into our news, let's talk about our pile of potential. Lee, I'll start with you because I actually have some updates and pictures. Can't believe it, right? Go to Vegas with it. But what have you done? Is your pile of potential improved? Have you painted 17 armies since the last recording? Like, where overachiever?
Yeah, I wish I'd painted 17 armies since our last conversation. No, I've finished up 5 Raptidon Chargers. So finished them, and now I've got another 5 still to go. I did a little bit of work on my I just call him Fat Toad. I can't remember what his name is. You know, he's on a big throne with all that. So
Yeah, I
that
can't remember his name. He reminds me of the boss in Super Mario Brothers 2. Wart, I
okay.
think is his name. The
Well,
big
okay.
frog. Did you ever play Super Mario Brothers 2?
No, I think I skipped that.
Okay.
But
All right.
but yeah, so I not Lord Croak, because that's the other one. There's 2. But Slan. Slan's, yeah. So the Slan. So
We'll just go
Slan
with
is
Fat Toad. I kind of like
Fat
that
Toad,
better.
yeah. So, finished that, and then, in preparation for the game, a couple of days of games that we've got coming up, I started on the terrain from the Fire and Jade gaming box, the Spearhead gaming box. So last night I was slopping on the celestial grey on the walls to give it that white washed look. So yeah, so
Cool.
there's lots of projects going on. The Raptidons, 5 are done, still got another 5 to go, and then like 90% done on the Slan, and then just starting that terrain. So still just chipping away, and the paint tray just keeps working, having all the paints that I need, everything on one tray, bring it out, start painting, put it away, good, everyone's happy. So yeah, so that's it.
There is something to say for that too, because I've got all of my paints in this stacked. I mean, it's on Amazon. A lot of people use it. The makeup bottle holder, fingernail polish holders. It's like a little stacked like stair step thing. I've got all of my paints in there, and they're really close by, but they're not all. It's not there with all the brushes and everything. And I think there is something to say with you just have a box. You have your box, you put everything right there, and it's just a single motion. Especially for somebody like me who doesn't love painting, making it as convenient and easy as possible. I may try that to see if that works for me.
It works. I think that's the key. Is I think if you have to go and set up everything every time and get everything
Yeah,
out, and it just, by the time you spent 10 minutes before you've even, got where you need to be, but having it ready to go is just really simple. So if you have a spare 10 minutes, like it's there. All you need to do is just get some water. I mean, you could even put a bottle of water on the tray, and it's just that I think whatever you do to make it easy makes it easy to
hmm
paint, and then you don't have so many hurdles. So that's where I've been kind of finding that, just the simplicity of it. Have my paints that I need, it's on the tray, got my wet palette, then go paint for an hour, 2 hours, and then just see where it goes from there. You never know.
nice.
Sometimes it's the first hurdle. The first hurdle is the setup. You know once you've done that, you're off to the races and winning gold. See that
Oh
little
yeah,
bit?
a little Olympic tie-in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've tried different methods recently where I've started on my spearhead box, and we'll do segue I guess into my pilot potential. So I've finally gotten into my Stormcast spearhead boxes where all of my focus has been. It's just taken me a little while because I did some other stuff prior to the spearhead box, but in preparation for our upcoming games where we're going to play spearhead, I wanted to start working on at least the single models that
Mm,
I couldn't possibly proxy. So
yeah.
I would pick single models, and um, I even did something a little different where I've been having problems with Citadel's recent spray, like their base coat spray, and for the primer, and it comes out chunky or it's got that sawdusty
Mm,
type look and feel to it. Then you have to start all over again, do the alcohol bath, and get all the paint off your models. And that's caused me problems. So recently, I've just decided to paint one model, and instead of going down to the garage and then spraying and all of that. And no, I don't have an airbrush. I know that would solve that problem, but I just come back up and I'm just going to quickly coat it with some Abaddon black or something out of the pot, with a little water, of course. But I'm just priming it with a brush, and that's it.
mm,
And that's worked because it's all right here. I don't have to take it anywhere and wait. And because a lot of times I'll go take a bunch of models and prime them, and then I'll leave them out to dry. At least for it only takes 15 minutes or so, but they still kind of have that paint smell.
mm.
So I let all that air out, and then I forget about it, and then it's like the next day before I go back and paint them. So now I'm trying to remove all the excuses, and
Mm.
it's right there. So as soon as basically by the time I get my other paints ready, it's dry from my one base coat,
Mm.
of Abaddon Black or something. So
Do you
um,
find do you find that the Abaddon Black, because obviously we're always told you prime your models with a primer and then go straight into the paint. Are you finding that the Abaddon Black is giving you the base that you need to be able to build off? Like, have you found it like scratching or anything like that?
no, not for me, but I'm not a purist. I mean, I really just want to get the paint on there,
Yeah,
and this is the easiest way for me to do it. It's the same type of paint. Is it as clean maybe as a spray where it's really, really smooth? Um, I mean, yeah, to some degree. I haven't had any issues with it.
yeah.
Nothing noticeable. Like now that I'm going back and I painted now two models, which I'll pull up here and you can see for yourself. Um, but I'll throw these up. So this is I'm gonna butcher her name is Indrastra, something like that. You can tell I'm a hardcore Stormcast player because I know all the names. But this is Indrastra, the Celestial Spear, and
Right.
a really cool model to paint. I really actually this was fun. I don't
Mm.
have a lot of fun painting models, but this one was pretty good, and I got to use paint the wings. The wings are the focal point, which is what stands out everywhere. But this was a cool model, and I painted this with no spray or anything. I did sub assembly because it has the steps
Yeah.
and the wings, and it was hard to get on the armor in the back, and they had this tree behind it. So I did sub assembly a lot, which made it a little easier to do without spray, like doing the primer. Um, but this turned out really good, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun model to paint. I don't know if it's any good on the tabletop, but I like painting it. That's all that matters.
It's always the way that you spend hours on a model that's like this the centerpiece, and then they get them on the board, and
And
then
then
you're
it's
like,
terrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's done bad.
Yeah, I've done that before and I'm trying to think what it was. I put one model on. I painted. Oh man, I spent so much time painting it. I didn't look up any of the rules, and I would encourage our listeners to do the same. Honestly, get the models that you think just look awesome, and
Yeah,
if it looks awesome, you're gonna. I mean, Vashtor, for example,
yeah.
that was the one I was trying to think of. Vashtor the Archifane for Chaos Space Marines is hot garbage on the tabletop. I mean, just is so weak. I mean, you might as well just be like a Space Marine captain, like and not even that good. I mean, the thing is expensive, from a cost on a points basis, but I spent a lot of time with all the little, that he's got the weird skin and the purpley stuff going on. And I spent a lot of time on him and get him on the tabletop. And I'm like, oh, really? Like that's all you can do? Oh, it's a little disappointing, but it didn't matter because I was really proud of that paint job, and I just encourage folks get your models on the board,
Mm,
and if they're not good, I will one of our new guys on the podcast was on a couple weeks ago, and that was one of his tips for army list building is just put your models that you really think look cool on the table, and he's forever trying to do some new lists, and he puts like 30% of his list just models that he thinks are cool looking,
mm,
which I think is a really good idea.
that's it.
So anyway, so this
Looks
was
good.
Andrasta, and then I had my Storm Strike Chariot, very Roman Empire esque, and this was cool. I have like mixed results or opinions on whether or not I could have done something a little better, made it look a little cooler on the chariot itself. I don't know. I ended up really liking and I got this up on the screen here, the blending. I thought the
Mm,
blending turned out pretty good. The picture is kind of hard to tell. It looks a little splotchier than it is in real life, but the blending turned out well, and that was cool. I ended up just maybe like a small tip without having to do all of the wet blending. But what I typically do is if I'm going to blend anything at all, especially for some light skin scales or fur or anything, I will do the two colors and then find something intermediary in the middle. That is, so if you have like a dark brown and then a wraith bone, a much lighter tone, and then in the middle I'll do a light brown, and then to kind of have it blend in, I'll just go back with contrast paint or a wash instead of going into really doing quote unquote wet blending, because that's a lot of work, and I just I don't want to spend that much time doing it. But this turned out pretty good, and I enjoyed painting it. It's a cool looking model. I've also heard it's not very good on the tabletop, so it'll get blown off the board.
I was just thinking from my Seraphon Spearhead box whether the Carnosaur would just chomp that up in a bite or two.
Probably.
Some griffin.
Yeah.
Is it a griffin? What are those animals on the front?
Griffin was what I would assume. Again,
Yeah.
I have not. I really haven't read anything. I just got these models out of the box. Well, that looks cool, and I throw them on there. I'll tell you what, and I was going to put this back. I'll put it back up on the screen. It's very odd, but I am really enjoying painting the blue on these models.
Yeah.
The gold, I could take it or leave it. But for whatever reason, it's just like the blue and the highlights. It really makes it pop, and I like the color. And so part of me is it's the whole Roman Empire type thing with these Stormcast. But we've had 3 or 4 listeners ask us for, why do you pick the armies that you pick? Why did you go with this army or that army? And sometimes it is because of maybe the aesthetic. Lee, you had picked your Gloomspite Gits just because you thought it was hilarious with the mushrooms and coming out all crazy, which is great, right? And you like the look of them. I picked Stormcast mainly because, like everybody says, don't pick Stormcast because they're the poster boys, of Age of Sigmar, but they're not as popular as Space Marines. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the Roman Empire look, but I really liked them, and I think the blue really popped for me. So maybe our listeners are looking for some more elegant reason why I picked Stormcast, but no, it's just because they have some Roman stuff going on, and I like the color blue. That was literally it.
Was that Cantor blue? I think it is the base color. Yeah, and then the white scar pop of the white, or is that a different for the
that's Corax white? Yeah, I did Corax white, which is a little less in your face white. And it's more subdued, but I will do highlights with but you just mentioned it. What's the white? The really bright white?
I'm just going blank. I got white scar.
I've got white scar. That's it. Thank you. So I'll do Corax white and then white scar as a highlight. But that's what I've used for the Stormcast. But really enjoyed them. And I've now got I've got Annihilators. I've got the Chariot. I've got Indrasta. Anyway, I got the Angel Lady, and I have the Flag Bearer, and then I've got the 10 sword guys. I think they're the Vindicators. So I'm getting there, and then I can actually start on Skaven Tide, which will be fun.
Oh, you've not even got to Skaven Tide yet?
No, no, I haven't. I do have the box open, so that's exciting.
That's good. That's it.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Lots of potential, and I'm getting there. And hopefully, we'll have some more pictures here. Definitely, we'll have more pictures in the next week. I'd say the week after this one, I'll have some more stuff up for those that are watching on YouTube. We'll try to throw up some more pictures.
Definitely.
All right. Well, let's get into some news. We'll start with the Age of Sigmar preview. They had the show on Twitch, and this is where they announced the winner. And I don't know, this could be like the American elections where everything's rigged, and there's a conspiracy theory for you. But like I don't know if the submissions where you fill out your little card, because I got one in my Skaven Tide box where you take the code and you submit it in, and that's my vote for whether I want Skaven or Stormcast to win. They did that with Leviathan for 40K. But
Tyranids won that one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And Skaven won this one. It's the bad guys. The bad guys always win.
Do you think it's real? Do you think they're actually
Yeah.
taking those votes, or do they just have they already have the models ready to go and they want to push the Skaven more so than the Stormcast?
No, I think they got. I think it's is that I think they've
Legit.
got both.
Okay.
Yeah, both sets ready to go, because it turns out pretty quick. You know what I mean? It churns out pretty quick. So I would say, yeah, it's legit. I'm gonna try and
Okay.
be on the good side and be like, no, they're an honest company. You
Yeah, they
know.
are.
So yeah, I mean, maybe people like the bad guys,
Maybe so. Well,
or
Skaven
maybe
won. If you're not aware, Skaven
spoiler
have taken
alert.
over. Yeah, well, Skaven have taken over the mortal realms, and I love all of the green lightning stuff coming out of the ground. That
Warpstone.
just looks warpstone. Thank you. That just looks it just looks really corrupted, and then the Skaven come out just going insane. And I mean, they showed off some really cool models. First of all, before we get into the reveals, and I got pictures of all of them because there were quite a few new Skaven models. I was surprised, but very excited though. So here's my only thing: this event, they hyped this up a little bit. It wasn't just a huge hype, but they had a countdown and everything, showing off more models. The whole thing was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes long, and I I I feel like this could have been a YouTube video, not a live
Mm,
stream, because in the old days, by old days I mean like 2 years ago. In the old days, they would have a live stream, and they would do like they would talk through the chat, and they would ask
mm,
people. They would do like a hype show,
mm.
right before. So 20 minutes before the show, oh man, thank you so much. Where are people coming from? And everybody would go in and list their country or city of origin and where they're watching. And it'd be all over the world. And they would talk about, what are you most excited about? And people would throw in some comments and stuff. And it really felt like a live stream. Now it's not a live stream anymore. It is more like a video game announcement, type
Mm,
presentation. So my question to you, Lee, is that do you? I mean, I think you saw some of the old ones. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Where they used to have the chat. Do you prefer this very much more polished? I would say,
mm.
and less chatty. But I mean, 10, 15 minutes, very concise. Do you like this method better or the past one?
I think the past one's just hard because you think about the sheer volume of people wanting to try and communicate. So for the presenters, they're getting, so many messages come in, and
Hmm.
and we've sat and watched, and it's like, they're talking about Tyranids and they're talking about Space Marines, and then everyone's like, "What about Votan?" And it's like, well,
Yeah.
they're not going to announce that. So I think this is where the format's going to go. But also, with it being a shorter show, I wonder if they thought, hey, let's do this. We're not going to have the time in between. So was it a smaller release? Yeah. So it wasn't like a big, like multi-part one. It was purely
Hmm.
for Sigma. So I wonder if you'll see for game specific releases like Sigma, like 40K, when it's just that, you'll see this format. But when you see the big kind of releases like LVO, those type things, I wonder if you'll see the chat open up a little bit more and it be a little bit more interactive. So either way, I missed this one because I was watching the as they say in America, soccer. But it was the Charity Shield in England. It was Man United versus Manchester City. So I was watching that. And then once the penalty shootout had happened at the end, I was like, quick, and jumped over and caught the end of it. So I missed some of the announcements, but got to check on it later. So
I mean,
yeah,
just to be clear, like the British started the whole soccer thing, right? You realize that. I think most people know it was the name that came from England because it was
really?
yeah, it was they used to call them like was it association? I think that was it, and they
Okay.
shortened it. It was like yeah, the football association, and then they wanted to shorten it, so it was like the SOC, and then that's where it came from. Soccer
Oh,
Association, all of that. Yep.
well, they are. I'm now educated, and I shall hold that information for the next pub quiz that I'm in. Thank
But
you.
I mean, I'm just saying. That's like, and then the Americans took it, and then the English were like, no, 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 we're going to call it football now. And I'm like, okay, well, and I don't know why Americans
Yeah.
have American football, which you kick like 3 times a game. So
That's it.
I don't know. It's
That's
all
it.
anyway. Warhammer. Yeah, I liked this. I mean, I like the polish. I like that it is they have it very concise. They don't spend a lot of time bantering back and forth. That was the only thing on the previous live streams. They would it's almost like they would talk too much about the models and that they were trying to buy
Mm,
time before the next one would release. And now you can tell that they pre-recorded it and they've cut and they said, okay, here's the next model, bam, and it happens
mm,
right away instead of having to kind of ramble on and talk about, what do you think about this spear on this guy? And they would do that for an extra 2 or 3 minutes when they were just trying to buy time until they were ready to showcase the next one. So it's fine. It gets us the releases much faster. I like some of the slow drip feed of announcements because I want it to last a little longer. I want it if I'm
yeah.
gonna put time aside to watch something. If it's only 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, man, it's just, is there anything else? I'm left
Mm,
disappointed, even though they showed off a ton of models. So maybe stretch it out. I don't know what they could do. If they're going to do it in this concise format, they're not going to go back and forth with the chat. But I don't know. I'm sure they're not going to change anything because this is probably a lot cheaper to pre-record it, and they don't have to all the production that was required to do it live. So
mm,
I don't know. It's what it is. Well, let's get into some releases then. I'll throw them up on the screen here. The first one was the Visic Scour, Prophet of the Horned Rat. And this guy is huge, like a massive model. I've got put pictures up here. We'll go back and forth on this one. But man, this guy looks super creepy. Going back to the Vashtor, it gives me a little bit of a Vashtor vibe because of the
mm.
claws and just all the stuff draping off of him. Boy, I really liked this model a lot. And I think he's pretty big too. He's a chunky model. He's probably the
Mm.
size of Vashtor, if not larger. And I really like this guy. So Lee, does he look cool to you? Does he look gross? Maybe both.
I mean, I think it's a great sculpt, and again, they continue to level up. I think what's interesting is the more you look at it, the more detail there is. So, if
Mm-hmm.
you are a painter and you love to get in there and really, hit all those details, you could be here for a week, weeks, months, just working on
Yeah.
all those, like even down to like the rat that's on the top, the top of the his armor
Yeah.
is like, I think it's
Yeah.
got
Where is
I
he?
think it's
He's
got
on
a
the armor. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, on the right, so the bottom right, bottom
Mm-hmm.
left picture, you can see he's holding like a warp stone. But I think the sculptors were saying that there are so many little things like skulls and rats hidden in the actual body of this guy. So it looks cool. I'm not a Skaven player, but I think also when you put that on the board, I don't know what it rolls, I don't know what its stat line is or anything like that, but immediately, like, it's intimidating to see something like that on the
Mm-hmm.
board, especially if you're Gloom Spike Gits and you're looking at that thing and you're like, but
Yeah.
again, it's really good and it gives that imposing feel, but not so much so that it's tied into the Skaven. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is a big thing. Let's just throw it in. It feels like it's really cohesive with the whole Skaven army. So I think it's good. Again, I'm not a Skaven player, but I'd be intimidated if that was on the board and rolling out, turn one. So
Yeah,
it's good.
I've got a Vermin Lord, and this looks like a more almost like a modernized Vermin Lord. The Vermin Lords
Mm,
look good for Skaven, and I like the look of them, but this one is like the Master Vermin Lord to
yeah.
me, and with just like extra horns and extra claws, and the tail looks even more gross. It's not a regular tail; it's got spikes and stuff on it, so it is a Vermin Lord that has been even more like further mutated,
Mm,
which I think goes in line with the whole narrative. And I really like this guy. I think he's really, really cool. So this is Visic Scour, and I'm assuming he is going to be doing something, maybe leading,
Yeah.
maybe a group of rats behind him. So I mean, I just thought that was cool. I'm going to read the little line here. When the Vermindoom secured the Skaven god's place in the pantheon of chaos, he shaped this demon into Visic Scour, lord of the Gnaw and prophet of the horned rat. Man, I'm sure he's going to have a lot of spells. A lot of magic's going to be coming from him. He's going to be able to buff the clan rats, I'm sure, or maybe the rat ogres or something. And I'm excited just to kind of get him as a centerpiece. And they've done a really good job with the overall theme. And we'll go to the next model here. But I just thought they overall, with all the reveals, they did a really good job of keeping with this nasty, grimy, skittering theme amongst the entire army, which is cool.
You wonder if you attach him to like rat ogres, if that becomes like a big blob that you really, you're gonna have to waste a lot of units on trying to get it off the board, especially if there's cohesion there, because those rat ogres look like they're not, not
chunky.
To be messed with.
Yeah, they're very chunky. And this guy, I mean, he might. I don't know what kind of attachment rules there are. Haven't played a lot of Sigmar yet, especially the new edition. But if it's anything like 40K, just the idea of attaching this guy or letting him do a lot of the spells in Skaven revolve around this doom, the bell chiming, and the fluff in the spells is really cool. It talks about the reverberations of the bell going off, and and then you have more rats coming in. It's just a really cool thing. So I'm excited. I will definitely be getting this guy eventually once I finish my 800 other models that I have to assemble and paint. So let's move on to the next one. This is Kritok Foulblade, and I believe he is like a storm vermin leader. I believe that's right. To pull up some notes, but really cool looking model. He looks almost like a
Soul Bite. The Soul Blight Gravelords have that red armor, like vampire-ish.
Yeah, I was gonna say almost like a samurai. He's got like a really old samurai that's taken off his helmet, and oh man, look what he looks like underneath. But maybe that's just the red armor.
It's Splinter from Turtles. You got
100%. That's it, 100%. And they said that the blade that he's got here in his hands, which if you are a Skaven player already and you like the Storm Vermin, the old models needed some work, and thankfully they have they've gotten some upgrades. But the blade that he's holding apparently has it has demons in the blade. There's some kind of magic that it has taken souls or other demons or something, and all harnessed it within the blade itself. And so it sounds really cool on the tabletop. That may just be like 1d6 extra damage or something. But if it's got maybe a cool attack or has some kind of splash damage maybe or lingering effects, they paint these things up to the nines whenever they do these reveals, and then everybody else tries to paint them, and maybe we would get kind of close, but I don't know if I could achieve the level of haunting green, the stuff. Maybe this is just a contrast paint. That's kind of what it looks like. There's some contrast paint over the top, but I think this blade is supposed to be having a bunch of magical juice in it, so the attacks would be really cool. The one thing I did want to call out though is the I guess when you call it a mold line or a seam. I don't know if you saw that right here, down here at the bottom right, with the rat that was right next to him. I mean, that's kind of rough. Like I don't know why. It doesn't even make sense that there's a line in between, because it's not like it's cut or anything. It seems like to me they would make that one single piece, or you put some green stuff over that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just didn't catch it, with the painters, but I can see it now. At first, when you mentioned it, I was like, I don't see it. And then when you pulled it up bigger, for those who are listening. It's basically a seam line that runs along the hood of a rat that's at the bottom of this guy. I was actually wondering whether because when I saw that additional rat on the model base, I wondered if that would be the equivalent of like a watcher in the dark, the ability to be able to trade a wound off onto that thing, as almost like a protector, or maybe it's just there for just to look good,
just
um,
because.
just because. But I'd be interested to see what the mechanics are, because I think what they said was that blade, I think it says it has the spirit of a vermin lord in it. And then he basically barters with the sword in order to trade for different things, but then it costs him time
That's
spent on
right.
a sentence or something like that. So I wonder if it's equivalent, if we'll see the equivalent of like a dark pact or something like that, that he could use that sword to thing, but he has to then make a pact with the sword, and then whether that would be a damage, or is it rend or something like that, some sort of
Yeah.
yeah,
the blade is called Doom Fang,
yeah.
and it says here, in moments of dire need, it almost seems as if Doom Fang wields itself, and sure enough, Kritok is forced to bargain with the Vermin Lord for each use, chipping a second, an hour, even a day off its sentence of imprisonment. So
Mm.
to me, it'd probably be like mortal wounds, or if you push it too much, then something explodes, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's
But
a cool bit of detail.
it sounds like then that the vermin lord's imprisoned in the sword, and then for every barter that he makes, it weakens the spell. So the
Yeah,
thought would be like, is there a crazed vermin lord in there that eventually breaks out and takes out, X amount of models in this? That's a fun dynamic, especially if it's
yeah,
like if it's the look of a draw. So it's not like, not like a cat with 9 lives. You get down to like 1 and you're like, okay, I'm not going to touch it anymore. Like, it
yeah,
would be cool if the mechanic was you roll 2d6, and if you roll a specific number, then it's game over.
yeah, yeah.
That's what's fun about it.
I agree. I think it's cool. I liked it. I mean, the model itself was a cool looking model. It wasn't anything just amazing, but the details around the blade, I think,
Mm,
send this one over the top. So,
it's good.
all right, let's move on then. This is the Master Molder, and I know Lee, you're not a Skaven player, but for me personally, I think they have different clans. Clan Molder was the clan that did a bunch of the Frankenstein type stuff, where they had there was an abomination model that they had, which was like rats sewn together, and so Clan Molder was actually one of my favorites, but the models weren't all that great.
Mm,
And now the Master Molder, the previous Master Molder was not a good looking model. This thing looks like Igor,
yeah.
coming in with this crazy looking weapon. Like, I mean, insane looking thing.
Mm.
It's like it's there to pull out your teeth and give you a haircut and maybe do some other things. So this is a really cool looking model. We don't have to go into a ton of detail here. I'll definitely be picking this one up too. It just looks like a cool model. Next, and this was a little smaller here. I just wanted to showcase these. These are the Storm Vermin. They needed to glow up. The old Storm Vermin models were more monopose, looked more like old world Warhammer Fantasy. I mean, they were probably done in the 80s. I mean, they were old sculpts. These are much more in the realm of, I would say, the like an orc sculpt. I like the dynamic poses, but again, just troops. The Storm Vermin are beefier clan rats, which is
Mm.
basically what they are. Here is a arch warlock. This got a couple of pictures of this guy. This one was okay. This is Clan Scryer, which is the more, I think, magic and poisons. I never got into the arch warlocks much. And I'm going through all of these. Any thoughts on this guy? He looks more like a robotic assistant or something.
Yeah, I mean the flasks on top, that look,
Mm-hmm.
that like he's creating and crafting something. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. It's almost got like the face has a look of that old the London the Death Doctors that have the Raven type mask.
Yeah.
That's what it has that feel like. But I think that's a cool model. You can see some of the steampunk influence in that as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the mold one. I think that one looks cool, but I think this one again gives you like it feels like a comparison model. So it feels like, hey, this is for this specific clan, and then this one's
Yeah.
for a more of a magic clan. But it looks cool. You
Yeah.
can see, they're both in this kind of creation type mode, whereas this one probably uses like sewing bits together. The other one's using like spells and magic and things like that. So I think they're great sculpts, and definitely as someone who enjoys painting, I think they both would give different challenges to a
Mm-hmm.
painter. So they're
Yeah,
good.
for real. I was looking at this, going back to the master molder and reading some of the text. They take to the field in control of packs of lumbering rat ogres, always on the lookout for new test subjects to snare with their cruel things catchers. Things catchers with a dash, which I think is amazing. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, so that's what the grabby, the pinchy grabby tool is,
Yeah.
and so you got that versus it's such a distinction between the different clans. They do a really
Mm.
good job of separating, kind of to your point. Whereas you've got this one is more of a stitched together, lumbering, gross experiment. I mean, look at that. It's even got a rat on the side of it holding
Yeah.
another weapon
Yeah.
next to its own arm. Like,
Mm.
who comes up with this stuff? And then this is the what's this guy called? Arch Warlock,
Mm.
much more refined, machine oriented. And then you go into the next one, which is a Warlock Galvanier. Not as impressive, but I would assume this is more just a ranged model that is going to do some ranged
Yeah.
attacks with the weird glowstone. But every single one of these models looks like they're absolutely insane, just mentally.
The ranged attack one feels like the sculptors were watching classic Ghostbusters. It's got that kind of like
Yep.
like pose, that they used to do. So I think that's fun. I even down to like the rat's mouth. It almost looks like it's having fun and laughing. Almost
Yeah,
like when
probably.
I look at that, I literally feel like the rat has gone crazy and he's
It's
just
cackling,
yeah, and just like having fun, like sending like warp stone everywhere and stuff. So I like that one.
probably.
It's a simple model. And then what I love on the back as well, if you look at the back, they've created like the lightning bolt in between the
In
two kind of
between,
the power
yeah.
generators. Like that's a nice touch as well. You could get some real good OSL on that if you wanted to.
Yeah, the warp stone, it's for anyone looking to paint and looking at these models and thinking, oh man, I'll never get to that level. It's really not as hard as it
Mm.
seems. I'll give you a quick tip on painting the warp stone. You start with a darker gray, and then you can do something really quickly if you want. You don't have to apply a ton of washes and stuff if you don't want to. You go to a darker green, rather. I don't know if I said gray, I meant green. You do a darker green, and then you paint usually some take a Corax white and paint the little cracks, just over the top of the green, and then come back in with there's a Tesseract glow, which is
Mm.
a weird, or you can do Warpstone glow, I think, but you can combine those two, and the more white you have, the Tesseract glow will go over the top and really make all those cracks pop. So it's not as difficult as it might seem to create the effect. So definitely try that out with 2 or 3 paints. There's tons of tutorials online about all of that. All right, these next guys are called the Acolyte Globadiers, and I immediately wanted to say like Harlem Globetrotters because I saw Globadiers, and I'm thinking Globetrotters because they're kind of in a pose where they're getting ready. They got a ball in their hand, like they're doing some tricks. Um, these guys are cool. Again,
Mm.
there's tons of models here. We'll go on to the next one. These are the Warp Spark Weapon Battery, and these are guys with, I mean, they're mounted guns. I think they come in packs of 3 from at least from the screenshots. But I thought these guys looked really cool. One of the things I like about Skaven is that they have a mixture of melee and range. And I mean, that sounds like an obvious statement, but what I mean is more so than other armies, it seems. They have a lot of, one of the few in Sigmar that actually have guns. And there's no, if you look around on Sigmar, there's not a lot of guns. They might have some catapults or some bow and arrow guys or something, but very little guns. And these are, of course, rattling guns, rattling cannons, of course. But one of the things here, it says, are effective tools of destruction, which have their handlers cackling with manic glee, often moments before the contraption blows up in their own face, which is awesome. I mean, that's why I play Skaven, just because you're going to do something crazy. And even with the trailers, they show them going nuts and then something exploding and they continue to laugh, which is just their MO. This next one is the Warp Grinder, and we're coming up to the end here, but the Warp Grinder has the ability to go underground and then come back up somewhere else on the battlefield and bring clan rats and other units with it. So it's like a drill into the ground that comes up and then gets right into melee range as soon as it comes out of the ground. I just think that's cool.
That's definitely, again, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reference. Where they used to have that from Technodrome used to come up and be like, oh, hey.
Yep. Come out with Bebop and Rocksteady.
That's it. So this is for someone who is never played Sigmar before. I look at this Skaven army and I think, are these guys like, are they stacked? Because it feels like their weapons that they have would give them an advantage over a Gloomspike army or a Seraphon army, just because of the distance that they can cover with those long range weapons. Or is it that they've kind of fashioned together, but they're so unpredictable that's what makes it.
What you get is, and this is, I've said this on the show before, but I picked Skaven because I like the look of them and thinking that they would be fairly simple to play, but they're actually one of the most complicated armies to play because their models are so weak. Okay. They die very easily, but they're very cheap from a cost, a point standpoint. So you can bring a ton of variety, but don't be expecting to just wipe the table. Now, that was in the old edition. I don't know if the new edition is like that. And with any new edition, especially if they're the poster boys, they're going to get, a boost. Yeah. And I don't. It seems like I just played Spearhead, and they were pretty chunky. They were much more powerful than they used to be. In the previous version, you had to really rely on strategy with multiple units because your units were going to die. Like, that was the whole point, is to send 20 clan rats in, and they're going to die immediately, but that's the point. And then you have abilities to bring them back later, but you had to augment that with buffs and stuff to make sure that those units could stay alive long enough. And the only issue with Skaven is that even after your initial line dies, do you have something behind it to come up and actually do real damage? And the answer was, sometimes. So I'm thinking maybe you got a little more buff at this point, which is a good thing.
So it's like, oh, these are cool.
Yeah, these are the Doom Flares, which are like American Gladiator, like steel ball contraptions where there's some kind of craziness going on inside. And the old models were rough, so these guys look really cool, and it looks like they come in units of 2. I'm definitely picking these up too. There's so many cool models, and this doesn't look that difficult to paint either. I mean, you might want to get a brass effect and stuff, but it's basically just a steel ball with a little bit of wood on the wheels and things, and you paint the rat and you're done. So it really wouldn't be that difficult to paint, I don't think. So
they're good. Again,
lots of stuff. Yeah, dynamic poses. Definitely some movement going on in all the blades. And it'd be good to put a little blood on the end of those blades too. I think that'd be cool. All right, last thing, Sigmar, and then we're going to move on. I wanted to throw this up. This was for our listeners. This is just a picture of the codex, and this is a something that went under the radar, and I think it has bigger implications for 40K as well. They have the normal battle tome that you can get. I say codex, battle tome, whatever. but they have the normal battle tome for Skaven, and then they announced on the Warcom site, this is a quote unquote gamer edition, which is just the rules designed for players who want all of their rules in one package. The battle tome is a smaller format, softback book that fits in a backpack and comes with a complete set of reference cards and a cardboard envelope to pack all your essentials. So basically, this is no lore. It's all rules, and that's it. Interesting. I think the full codex is I looked it up. Of course, they'll have a collector's edition, I'm sure, but the full battle tome is $60. The collector's edition is $110, which you get no new content, and they've jacked it up even more. And which, by the way, don't buy that. Sorry, just don't. $110, $50 for a visual improvement. You're killing me. But this is like a gamer edition. My guess is that they'll price this maybe close to the same, $50 maybe, because it comes with the cards. That's the offset. You don't get all the lore. But a cool package. I wonder what kind of implications that's going to have on 40K, on some other codex releases or battle tomes. I wonder what that's going to look like. Maybe they're just going to try this out. Maybe it's going to be for every single army. I don't know, but I like that they're trying something else other than, and it's a softback, so that means that the price would be a little cheaper as well. So, Lee, any interest in if you're going to buy a battle tome for Seraphon, for example, would you prefer the full hardback book, or would you be okay with saving maybe $10-15 and getting the softback?
Yeah, I think I'd probably go with the softback. I think obviously there's the lore and stuff like that, but I don't know. I'm not someone who is big into going into the lore. For me, it's about the painting experience and the playing, socially. So I think I'd probably go with that cheaper option. It means going back to like having the book and then putting like little tab holders in, so I could flick back, and I kind of like that. Apart from when it was a Space Marine army and you had to take 400 books with you and feel like you're taking a library everywhere you go. But for a Seraphon, I'd be interested in it because, again, I probably wouldn't be diving into the lore.
And so, yeah, same. I wonder if they would include the code to unlock the rules on the Warhammer app. They better, if they don't include that, or I could also see them saying, well, we want you to buy the hardback book, and if you do that, you get the code, and that'll unlock the everything in the app. They could do a lot of stuff with this. I'm hoping this takes off, though, because I think there are two different types of people. You got people that are just wanting the full experience, everything they could possibly read, and then you got people like us, which I flip through the lore stuff. I may read a couple of sections, but really I just go all straight to the rules, and that's it. So
it'd be interesting as well. Does that mean then that everything's going to get buried behind a paywall? Because right now, free is free, like everything's free. But does this mean that it's going to eventually go behind a paywall, and then it's going to force you to buy those? Because right now you don't need a nice book. You can just download the whole thing.
Yeah.
So is this a signal of it's free, but for a limited time, so
yeah, I would be personally, I'd be okay with no book at all and just sell me the code. I know that sounds a little weird, but I would be okay with spending even like maybe make me pay $30 just for the code to unlock all of the stuff within the app, and I'll be good to go. I may be in the minority, but
but then it's updatable. I know we've talked on the show about we think it's locked and everything's in, but at some point there's got to be some sort of shift. There's no way that they've got this 100% right. If we look at 40K, they're having to adjust. So that means once you buy these books, as soon as they're in print, once they change a stat or something, it's
obsolete.
So for me, that's where I got burnt with Space Marines. I bought the cards, and I was like, great, I got the data cards, let's go. And then they changed it, and I'm like, well, unless I get in there with like a corrective marker and start changing it, it's basically a waste of money. So when it comes to, I'm interested in that, but I would prefer a digital version because the ability to be able to update,
I agree. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like the app now. So if they do update the points and they update the rules and change things around, it's all in the app. I don't have to
Mm,
go and download extra documents and print them out and take them along with me along with the full book and all of that. So um, I would prefer them to go all digital. I still think they should include that in the Warhammer Plus subscription, or something to that effect, and make me buy like downloadable content. Make it like Xbox Game Pass or something where I pay a subscription fee every year. Maybe that's Warhammer Plus, and then I buy add-on packs. So if I want
mm,
to add Skaven as an army, I pay $30, $20, whatever it is, and I unlock that content.
mm,
And you could do all kinds of stuff with that. And I know a lot of the purists will say, no, I want my books in hand. They're going to have to appease both sides, but for someone like myself, I'd pay for convenience. So I'll pay
mm.
for it to be, easily accessible within an app, as long as the app is good. That is.
Yeah.
So
See.
all right. So lots of Sigmar stuff, all Skaven, tons of models. My wallet is very sad, but I'm very happy. So I'm looking forward to the new Skaven stuff. With the remaining time here on the show, I wanted to hit a couple more things. Something that's also got me excited, and this the picture looks a little derpy when I pulled it up. It almost looks like 8-bit, like
Yeah.
from an old DOS game or something. But this is terrain. They announced on the Warcom site some old world terrain that they're bringing back,
Mm,
classic kits that they're bringing back, and it's essentially like an old medieval castle house kind of deal with flags, and then the fences and stuff around them. I just like the look of these things. I think it's
mm,
cool. And plus, it's terrain, and I get excited about terrain, especially the fantasy variety, because you can use it in other games if you want to. If you're going to play D&D, you've got extra bits here to throw in, which I just think is cool personally. They've got the fences, the stone fences, and the little signposts, very spooky Halloween looking. And then they have I would say just some tomb markers or columns. This
Looks
was
like
the
a
only
mausoleum or something like that.
mausoleum. Yeah. I'm a little disappointed in those because it looks like, well, I could make those pretty easily. With the exception of the skulls, maybe those are kind of hand carved. But I mean, you could
Mm,
make those so easy with a little bit of the pink insulation foam, some gray and black paint, and you're done.
mm.
So, nah, I'm a little on those. And then the hills,
You can make those, definitely. Those are pretty
really
easy to make.
easy,
Yeah.
very easy to make, but they are the plastic kit.
Mm,
So I just think it's funny that they're bringing back hills because that was such a big thing back in Warhammer Fantasy. And I mean, people that don't want to do any crafting, this is an easy way to get some terrain on your table. But if you can drive and you're listening, and you can go to a hardware store like a Home Depot if you're in the United States, or Lowe's, get you some pink insulation foam, and you can make 500 hills. Like, you'd be able to make so many because this is so easy to do. You could do this in an afternoon with a little bit of flock. Oh man! But that said, going back to what I said previously on paying for convenience, this sure is convenient. You just pop it out and you paint it, throw some flock on, you're done. So I I don't know. Lee, do you like this terrain? Do you care anything about it? Or is it
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean, I
too
like no, I
yeah.
like it. I mean, it definitely had nostalgia. Obviously, I grew up in England, so I remember there was a shop called BT's, which was like it had all like the radio controlled cars, and then it had a whole like range of like medieval knights.
Mhm.
So I remember as a kid, we went to a place called Tintagel, which was where King Arthur was rumored to come from. So that really caught my imagination. And I remember going into BT's and just seeing all the kind of the knights and the keeps and the castles and all that medieval kind of toy terrain. And I was like, man, this is so cool. And so as soon as I saw that, it brought all that nostalgia back. And then it got me going. If we ever play Old World, I might go with the knights. Get a full on King Arthur, realm going. I don't think we'll ever play Old World, but what I do like about those is you can use that in a fantasy setting, and it feels relevant,
Yep.
So
Sigmar.
I don't know.
That's what I was
Yeah,
looking at
Sigma.
for.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I would imagine the keep castle house slash whatever it is. I think that's going to be pretty pricey. The other stuff maybe not so much, but I think that is going to be one of those big kits, and I would imagine that would be a limited run as well. I would imagine it would sell out pretty quick.
Yeah,
And
I would say my guess would be probably $250, $300 for that. I mean, it's a lot of terrain. Now, I
Mm,
say that, but I mean they've made 40K terrain, these ruined buildings, and those weren't incredibly expensive. You're still
mm,
paying around $100 for them. So, maybe it'll be more budget friendly. It would be great if it was like 150.
mm.
I think that would be a really good price, but I'm guessing, much higher than that. But maybe not. I will most likely be picking it up because it applies to Sigmar,
Mm.
and there's not a lot of Sigmar terrain. So I
And
thought
I
it
would
was cool.
but I think that's going to take you time to paint. Like, I don't think that's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be a simple kind of slap a coat on, dry brush, and away you go. I think that is,
yeah,
you know, you'll be.
agreed.
That's really going to put your pile of potential back after the
Yeah.
Skaven, all of
Skaven
that.
time, and no. Well, speaking of pile of potential, we'll end our show here. There was a teaser trailer. I'll throw this up on the screen. That just took a couple of screenshots of right at the very end. It looked like a teaser for some 40K stuff that they're going to be doing on the 16th. So in 5 days, they're going to be
Wow.
most likely doing another preview, is my guess. If they're
Mm,
not doing a preview, they might just throw something up on the website. But I saw someone say this would be Elysian drop troops, which
mm,
are Astra Militarum, so the jump packs. I didn't really have a guess. It doesn't look like Votan or anything too exciting for me personally, but there have been the Votan book. The Votan's going to be on White Dwarf coming up soon, so they're hyping it up. Then I saw some kind of leak where Votan would have their codex in winter of this year, and winter is right around the corner. It's not too far away. I don't know if that's going to be real or not, but I don't think this is Votan personally. Lee, what do you think this is?
I mean, originally I was hoping it was going to be Votan. I actually thought that there's like columns coming out of and I actually thought that it was a spaceship, but then I realized that they were actually dropping down, not flying into
Yeah.
it. It would make sense that there was stuff on the ground.
Hmm.
So I don't think I want it to be Votan. I think that would be cool, but I think maybe they'll go for Votan around Christmas and release a kind of like Santa Claus looking, dwarf model type thing that's like ready to go. But yeah, I think it probably is, Militarum. I think that's where we're going with it,
Hmm.
unless there's something else. I know that there was an article where they talked about, is it Chalnath, and
Hmm.
there was a conversation around that and orcs. So I'm like, oh, maybe, but I think that is a lower chance than the Astra Militarum.
As an orc player, I'll just say they don't need any more models right now. They have
Yeah.
so many orc models, and it's great. But that line is just so much variety. They need to
Mm,
go hit another army that doesn't have as much, in my opinion. Give them a
mm,
little juice. I think Votan would be a great because they're relatively new. They don't have a ton of variety right now. They need, I would say, 4 or 5 new kits would
mm.
really help round them out. But I'm sure other folks that are listening to this that play different armies that haven't had new models in
Yeah.
a while are saying the exact same thing. So
Mm.
I don't know. We'll see. I think the Astra Militarum drop troops is a good guess. Maybe the reveal is what they're dropping into. Maybe that's
Mm.
something that they're just trying
Yeah.
to pull the wool over our eyes a little bit and make us guess around. But August 16th is coming right up. So really looking forward to that. And we'll cover that on a future show. So
That's it.
very cool. Lots of awesome news. Again, my wallet is going to be very sad, but my paintbrush happy. I'm doing a lot of painting, trying to get all that done. So looking forward to that. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Dad Hammer podcast. Thank you to the Chaplain, I am David the Warboss, and until next time, remember that your gigantic pile of potential, all those boxes, can still double as terrain. Take care, and we will see you next time.